Part 1. Half a photograph. It was the kind of morning that felt like the end of something. Gray sky, fractured light, rain that didn't fall in sheets, but in thin, persistent lines that soaked everything without ever really arriving. The highway stretched out in front of me like a thought I didn't want to finish. Route 7, halfway between nowhere and a place I didn't want to be. My phone was dead. The GPS had stopped updating an hour earlier, and I was relying on road signs, instinct, and a stubborn streak that told me I'd figure it out eventually. I wasn't in a hurry, I was just driving. That's when I saw him. A flash of blue on the shoulder of the road, a figure hunched low, wrapped in a weather-worn tarp, his knees drawn to his chest. Beside him, a large German shepherd sat motionless. The leash was slack. The dog didn't bark or move. He just sat there in the rain, eyes fixed on the man as if he was the only thing that mattered. I drove past. 10 seconds. Maybe less. But something twisted in my gut. Something old. I slowed the car, then turned around and pulled over behind them. You don't leave a man and his dog sitting on the side of a wet highway unless you've stopped paying attention to the world. I got out of the car slowly. My boots hit the soaked gravel, splashing water onto my jeans. The wind carried the scent of pine, mud, and diesel. The man didn't look up. He was whispering something, words too low for me to catch. The dog turned his head first. Calm, watchful. His eyes were the color of smoke. "Sir," I called gently, "are you all right?" The man stirred. His face, hidden beneath the tarp, lifted just enough for me to see his eyes, sharp, ice blue, and full of something heavy. Not fear, not pain, something deeper, something older. "I'm waiting," he said. "For what? For someone not to pass me by?" He didn't smile. He just looked at me as if searching for something in my face. I didn't know what he was seeing, but whatever it was, it made him speak. "I need a favor," he said. I hesitated. I was a journalist. Not a particularly successful one, but a curious one. I'd talked to senators, veterans, addicts, CEOs, and ghosts of people who used to be more than what they became. But something about this man made me stop asking questions in my head. "What kind of favor?" I asked. He reached into the folds of his coat and pulled out a bundle, a piece of cloth wrapped tightly around something small. He held it with both hands like it was something sacred. "This," he said, placing it in my hands. "This is half of a story. The rest is with her." I unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a torn photograph. The right half. In it, a woman held a little girl in her arms. The woman was smiling, her eyes bright with summer light. The child looked to be around 6 years old, laughing, reaching toward someone who had clearly been standing just out of frame. "My daughter," he said. "Sarah. Last time I saw her, she was 6. What happened?" "I left," he said simply. 31 years ago. Why?" He shook his head. "Some answers don't matter anymore. Only this does." I looked at the photo again. It had been folded and unfolded so many times that the crease down the center had begun to tear. There was a faint scent on it, old paper and something floral. "I want you to find her," he said. "Give her this. Tell her I never stopped remembering, that I wanted to say goodbye. Why me?" He looked down at the dog. The dog looked at me. "Because you stopped." I stood in the rain, holding a stranger's regret in my hand, unsure what to say. The photographer in me, the one who chases truth for headlines, told me to ask more, but the human in me just nodded. "What's your name?" I asked. "Colin," he said. "Colin Wheeler, and hers Sarah. Sarah M. Wheeler. She used to live in Rosenvale, Pennsylvania. That's all I have." He handed me a creased envelope. The return address was faded, the stamp torn, but the name was there, printed in careful handwriting. I took it. Then Colin did something strange. He smiled, just a little, like something had finally been set down. And then, with a deep breath, he laid himself back down on the wet gravel. The dog, Major, I would learn later, lay beside him and placed his head on Colin's chest. I knelt down beside him. "Colin, I'm tired," he said. "But I'm glad I waited." His eyes closed. Chapter 2. The Quiet Between Storms. The ambulance arrived in under 15 minutes. 2 EMTs, one younger, one worn with experience, moved quickly but gently. I told them what I could, that I'd found him on the roadside, that he'd been coherent, and that he'd asked me to find someone. I didn't mention the photo. Not yet. That felt like something sacred, and I wasn't ready to give it up. They checked his pulse, muttered numbers to each other, and slid him onto the stretcher. The dog, Major, stood up as they lifted Colin. He let out a quiet, low sound. Not a bark, not a growl. A warning, or maybe a prayer. "He's okay, boy," I said quietly, kneeling down. "I'm going with him." Major's eyes held mine for a long time. Then, as if giving his approval, he sat back down, soaked and silent. The hospital was 30 miles out, and I followed the ambulance in my car, heart heavy with something I couldn't name. When I arrived, they were already wheeling Colin down a hallway under fluorescent lights. The sound of soft-spoken nurses and distant intercoms made the place feel like a half-awake dream. I stayed in the waiting area with Major. He refused to leave the automatic doors, sitting like a stone sentinel every time they opened, his ears perking up, hoping the next person would be Colin. I waited with him. Hours passed. A nurse offered me coffee. It was bitter and burned my tongue, but I drank it anyway. I still hadn't told anyone my name. No one had asked. Eventually a doctor came. He looked tired, but kind. "Are you family?" "No," I said. "Just someone who listened." He nodded, as if that was good enough. "He's stable for now," the doctor said. "Dehydrated. Signs of cardiac fatigue. He's speaking in fragments. Names, places. Lots of disjointed memories. We'll monitor him overnight." "Can I see him?" A pause. "You're not listed as next of kin, but he hasn't mentioned anyone else. Just the name Sarah." The doctor looked at me. "If she's who he's talking about, maybe you're the closest thing to family right now." They let me into the room. Colin was pale against the white sheets. His skin looked thinner under hospital lights, his body small inside the tangle of wires and blankets. But his chest rose and fell with quiet rhythm. He looked at peace, or close to it. I pulled a chair up beside him and sat. Major lay down at the foot of the bed without a sound. "Hey," I said softly. "You made it." Colin didn't open his eyes, but his fingers twitched. "I have the photo. I still have the letter. I'm going to find her, Colin." There was a long silence, then a whisper, like dry leaves moving across a sidewalk. "Lake house." "What?" "Tell her the lake. I still see her, in the yellow dress." His eyes opened for just a second. Watery, unfocused. "Promise," he said. "I promise." And then he slept again. That night, I found a cheap motel near the hospital. I couldn't bring myself to leave completely. Something told me he might not be there in the morning. I didn't sleep much. I sat on the bed, the photo and envelope on the table beside me. I looked at the photo for a long time. The woman, Sarah's mother, looked so alive in it. Not just happy, but present. The kind of joy that photographs rarely capture unless it's real. The child in her arms, Sarah, had curls that bounced in the air, caught mid-laugh. Her eyes were half shut in joy. She was reaching for someone, probably him. The other half of the photo? Gone, torn, just like the man who gave it to me. I unfolded the letter again. The handwriting was shaky but deliberate. "Sarah M. Wheeler Rosenvale, PA, please forward if moved." No return address, no date. But it was something. I opened my laptop and started searching. There were only 2 Rosenvales in the country, one in Oregon, too far west, one in Pennsylvania. Small town, population under 5,000. That was the one. Sarah Wheeler wasn't a rare name, but in a town that size, it narrowed the list. I found 3 matches: a retired teacher, a floral shop owner, and a middle school librarian. I had no idea which one was her, but I had a promise. Rosenvale wasn't much more than a name on a map, tucked between hills and forgotten highways. It was the kind of town where time didn't speed up or slow down. It just lingered. Old brick buildings lined the main street. A diner with a rusted Coca-Cola sign. A barber shop with striped poles that probably hadn't turned in years. A church, 2 stoplights, and 1 post office. And 3 Sarah Wheelers. I parked outside the diner around 10 a.m., the town still shaking off its morning fog. I had slept maybe 3 hours the night before, and the weight of the photograph in my jacket pocket felt heavier with each breath. Major was with me, curled in the back seat. He'd barely eaten, but he kept his eyes on me like a soldier guarding an unseen perimeter. I felt safer with him there. The waitress behind the counter wore her hair in a tight bun and called everyone Han without looking up. I ordered black coffee and sat in a booth near the window, flipping open my notebook. Sarah Wheeler, number 1, retired schoolteacher, age 68, lives on Maple Drive. Sarah Wheeler, number 2, owner of Wheeler Bloom's Flower Shop, mid-40s. Sarah Wheeler, number 3, librarian at Rosenvale Middle, early 30s. If Colin's daughter was 6 when he left 31 years ago, she'd be around 37 now, which meant one of them was a match, likely the librarian, possibly the florist, almost certainly not the retired teacher, unless the math was wrong, or Colin's memory had blurred the truth. I decided to start with the one who seemed the least likely. Sarah, number 1, the retired teacher. Her house was small and well-kept, with a bird feeder swinging gently on the porch. She opened the door before I knocked, like she'd seen me coming. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Hi," I said. "I'm looking for someone named Sarah Wheeler." "Well, you found one," she smiled. "But I'm guessing I'm not the one you're looking for. You've got that reporter look." I blinked. "Do I?" "You do. They all get that same curious frown, like they're trying to write the ending before the story starts." I laughed. She smiled kindly. "You're not Colin's daughter, are you?" I asked, cautious. She paused. "No," she said, "but I know who he was. That made me stop." "You knew him?" "Not personally, but in a town this size, you hear things. He left before I moved here, but my husband grew up with him. Said Colin had a wild heart, left behind a wife and baby girl. Her eyes softened. Always said he'd come back, but he never did." I nodded. "He's not well. I found him. He asked me to find her." The woman sighed and touched the side of the door frame, as if grounding herself in the moment. "I hope you do," she said. "And I hope she wants to see him." I thanked her and left. One down. Sarah, number 2. The florist Wheeler Blooms smelled like spring and sorrow, the kind of scent that makes you remember weddings and funerals at the same time. Sarah, number 2, was busy arranging a bouquet of white lilies when I walked in. Her hair was tied back with a patterned scarf, her hands moving with quiet precision. She didn't look up right away. "Give me a sec," she said. "No rush," I replied. "You do beautiful work." "Thanks." Funeral order. For a guy who wasn't supposed to die yet. I stayed quiet. When she finally looked at me, I saw calm eyes and a guarded smile. She had the right age, maybe the right sadness. "I'm sorry to ask this," I said carefully, "but did your father's name happen to be Colin Wheeler?" She stopped. Her hands stilled over the flowers. "No," she said after a moment. "My father was Bill Wheeler. Still is. Lives 2 blocks from here and drives me crazy." I let out a slow breath. "I didn't mean to upset you. You didn't. Just caught me off guard." "Colin Wheeler? That name rings a bell? Wasn't he the one who left town?" I finished for her. She nodded. "Yeah, that's the one. People don't talk about him much. Some say he just vanished. Others say he had debts, or demons, or both. Maybe all of the above." She looked at me with a strange expression. "Who are you?" "I'm the guy he asked to find his daughter." She blinked slowly. "Well, good luck." Sarah, number 3, the librarian. The Rosenvale Middle School library smelled like pencil shavings and old dreams. A small bell above the front desk jingled as I entered. Behind the desk sat a woman, early 30s, wearing a blue cardigan and tortoiseshell glasses. She was helping a boy find a book about wolves. When he left, she looked up and smiled politely. "Can I help you?" I studied her face. There was something familiar. The shape of her mouth. The warmth in her eyes. "I hope so," I said. "I'm looking for someone." "Her name is Sarah Wheeler." "You found her," she said. "That's me." My heart thudded. "Did your father's name happen to be Colin?" Her smile faltered. She stood very still. Then she said, "Who are you?" "My name's Daniel. I found him 3 days ago, on the side of the highway." She didn't speak for a full 10 seconds, just stared. "Is he alive?" "Yes." She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, there were tears.